concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Oh, wah! It's Sunday afternoon. It's time for the stream. And I'm out of breath because I just ran upstairs to grab something. And now it's... But at least the stream has started on time. How's it going, chat? We're going to do some Q&A. That's what we do here. Sorry. Too many stairs in my house. Sunday evening in Holland. That's right, Leo Kulix. This is the European stream, streaming on a Sunday afternoon. When traditionally we might be watching football. I don't know what normal people do. That's right. We're streaming on a Sunday afternoon to try to make room for all the Europeans out there who don't want to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch my other stream. And oh, my shirt is clean. That is true, Sucker Punch FPV. In the other day's video, I think I'm trying to figure out what was all over my shirt in yesterday's video. I blamed my baby because it's easy to blame the baby, but actually, if you watch the video, I think it's water. Maybe I went out and I changed the pool filter and got water on my shirt. How did I not notice while I don't know. Anyway. Oh, TAC FPV. TAC FPV gives $2 in the super chat and asks, is TAC the next Rotor Riot pilot? It's funny because I saw the question and I was like, oh, somebody's noticed that TAC has been coming down to Orlando and working with the Rotor Riot guys. And then I was like, oh, it's TAC. Nice going, TAC. Well, thank you for the $2, man. That's a sure way. If everybody asks, how do you get to be a Rotor Riot pilot? And the answer is donate to my live streams. No, that's a joke. Drone Racer says TAC has enough subs to be a Rotor Riot pilot. The thing is, becoming a Rotor Riot pilot has absolutely nothing to do with how many subs you have. It's not any one thing. I mean, certainly Chad Capper or Drew would be really the guy to talk about this. I'm sure if they were considering a new pilot, they'd run it by me and say, what do you think? I think that probably happened. But in my opinion, like, it's just this, there's a lot of different factors that have to come together, you know, and it's not just about being a great pilot, or I wouldn't be. I'm not. I mean, I feel like I feel like I'm probably a better than average pilot, but when I fly all day with guys like Drew, like Alex Vanover, like all the other, I'm just like, no, I'm terrible. I suck. So it's a lot of factors. So let me just ooh, that's a good question. Big Data Pimp. Why was I able to get rid of death roll by lowering rates? The answer, Big Data Pimp, is the lower your rates are, the slower the motors accelerate. And when you death roll, the harder you push the motor, the more likely it is that if the motor is like got a little bit of a problem, when you try and make the motor speed up really fast, it'll desync. But if you lower your rates, the motor is still damaged. That's like saying, you know, when I have a sprained ankle, why can I sort of walk but not run? Same deal. The motor's still messed up. Okay, so let me just do my little intro here. Hi, everybody. If you're new here, here's what we got going on. Boom! This is my main screen right here. Main screen turn on. Somebody set up us the bomb. That's an old meme, but it checks out, sir. I got my Discord. Oh, wait. I got to be on the... Here we go. Live stream chat. Hello, patrons. I got my Discord over here on my live stream. And if you want to get access to my Discord server, you can join my Patreon page. And then you get to basically chat with each other on the live stream. I try to take questions, but a lot of times these guys just end up saying, hey, Mono Man. Hey, Brett. Hello, everybody. Over here is the normal chat. The plebs. That's okay. I still take questions. Gearhart, this is the Rode NT-USB. NT-USB is the mic I'm using right now. And down here is the Super Chat. And the problem is, as you may know, these questions go by so fast. Nemo, D-Shot 32 is just D-Shot 1200, but running at 32 kilohertz. Thanks, Flight 1, for creating a new confusing thing with a different naming convention. Way to go. Matthew Tan, how do I make a donation? It's very simple. Just hit this $ right here. Put in your credit card information or whatever, and then your question will get pulled out right here. Right here. And then I'll try to make sure. I almost never miss those. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do some Q&A. Q&A. Today we're drinking Arnold Palmer. It's half tea, half lemonade. That's what we got going on. And I want to start the video. I just took some questions because they were such good questions I couldn't resist it. But I actually have some really interesting news. So I want to do some kind of news of the day. And the first news has to do with the FrSky Access Protocol and the Taranis X9. Hold on a second. I have one. I just got this in the mail like a day ago, and I'm so glad that, you know, because a lot of times other people get their reviews out before I do, and I'm like, I'm missing all these awesome clicks. But then when I'm late, I get a scoop on something that the first guys didn't get. So this is the FrSky Taranis X-Lite, Taranis Lite, the Taranis Lite. And this radio has been getting some flack because it only supports the new FrSky Access protocol. Access is their new air protocol. So like FrSky has D16, D8 mode, and this only supports the new Access mode, which is an issue because, number one, if you have any receivers that don't support Access protocol, you can't use them with this. Now, the FrSky RXSR and XM receiver can be updated to support the Access protocol, but if you then update them, you can't go back. You can't flash them back. So it really feels like FreeSky is trying to sort of ratchet people forward and push out the old D16 and D8 receivers. D8, not a lot of people still use D8, but D16 is really popular, and a lot of people have a problem with that. And this radio has been getting a lot of negative press. Well, I found out literally last night, FreeSky has heard your complaints, my complaints, everyone's complaints. Someone who said that they were a U.S. rep for FreeSky on Facebook, so take it with a grain of salt, but that's who this person said they were, said that FreeSky within about a week is going to be releasing firmware for this radio that updates it to support ACCST, the old D16 mode. So FreeSky seems to be, and the X-Lite Pro, which is the other access radio, already supports D16 mode. So it seems like FreeSky is kind of putting their toe in the water of locking out people who still have D16 receivers. It seems like they're walking that back a little bit. Let's not, there's still some things to complain about, like the no JR module bay. So they still don't want you using third-party modules that they haven't approved. That's why they've created this alternative form factor instead of the JR module that everyone else uses. So, and they still are dominating OpenTX development by hiring one of the OpenTX devs to work for them full time. So there's still some issues, but at least one of the issues seems to be mitigated, and that's nice. Okay, another thing I want to do in the news of the day before we start answering questions, and we will start answering questions, but there were a couple items that came out that I have to get before.
Lots of people.
Oh no, this is a commercial. I don't want a commercial. Hang on. This. Good. There we go. Oh no. Hang on. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. This is RC Shim. He is an awesome, awesome reviewer, and one of the things he focuses on is cameras. He focuses on camera reviews, and he is pointing out something that you need to know if you're thinking about the Foxeer Box 2. So I'm going to paste this video link in the chat. I see you there, Martian McFly. Thank you. This is a good time for the Europeans. Yeah. So when you may recall, when I did my review of the Box 2, I said it looked like the pixels were bigger on the Box 2. It looked like it had lower resolution, and I couldn't figure out, but surely I said that's not true. Well, RC Shim is reporting that the scaler algorithm on the Box 2 is flawed. And basically, when you are in 2.7K resolution, you're actually in 1080 resolution, just basically scaled up to 2.7K. And that's why when I was recording in 2.7K, it looked like the pixels were bigger and the resolution was lower on the Box 2. And I should have had more faith in myself. That's my biggest problem, I think, is that I don't believe in myself enough. No, I'm being sarcastic. Because I noticed it and I was like, well, surely that's not true. I pointed it out and then I moved on. But he dug in, and he thinks that when the camera's in 4K, there's no scaling going on, so everything is fine. And when it's in 1080, that's the resolution the scaler is actually at, so it's fine. But when it's at 2.7K, and he's like, how is everybody missing this? And I just want to say, okay, I didn't quite get it, but I almost got it. Okay. Alrighty. So those are news of the day. I have one more thing I want to show you. Then we're going to do questions. This came in the mail. I'm going to do a review of this, but hold on. I want you to have the experience. What is it? It's from Newbie Drone. Ready? Hang on, I have to move my mic over. Okay. So you're like, I'm not impressed yet. Okay. Hang on. You think you know what this is, but hold on. These are goggles, but wait. Yeah, inside the goggles is your Acroby case, and then it comes out and you've got your goggles. Whoa! And here's the screen right here. So they sent me this to review. It kind of reminds me of the lunchbox, but the lunchbox, this is magnetic, by the way. It just slaps on with a magnet. The lunchbox had a lot of problems. We won't go into that. That's when I first took that off, I was like, WTF, that's so cool. So I'm going to be reviewing that. Okay, let's get to the comments and the questions. Okay, scrolling back in the questions. Putting warm batteries in the fridge after flying, good or bad? Pilower asks. The temperature of batteries absolutely does matter. Batteries stored at a lower temperature, I think they do degrade slower, but the most important thing is the voltage, I believe. Putting the batteries at, I mean, if you think about like batteries, manufacturers, they don't store the battery in a refrigerator, do they? If the battery is at 3.8 volts, then it's probably going to be fine. And so the most important thing is to get them to storage voltage and keep them at storage voltage. Putting them in the fridge, I don't think that really matters very much. Rafnik 1987. I'm so glad you were able to make the trash can. Make the live stream. You have a trash can. You're having a blast so far. I see some super chats coming in. I will be getting to those very shortly. Just want to make sure we get some of these questions. What do I think of the Jumper T16? Asks David Reynolds. I'm going to say the same thing about the Jumper T16 that I've been saying, and that is that the Jumper T16 has so much promise. I love the ergonomics. I love the big screen. I love that it runs OpenTX, and at least for now, Jumper seems to be committed to open source, whereas FreeSky seems to be sort of trying to lock people out. So I still would like to see the next rev of the Jumper hardware. I would love to see it with an internal multi-protocol module, and I would love to see just slightly upgraded hardware. The buttons and switches. The switches are pretty decent. I've heard from some people who are reporting the buttons are failing a little bit. It's hard to know how prevalent that is versus just sort of like one guy who got a bad radio. And I would especially like to see upgraded gimbals. The gimbals are not bad, but they're not sort of at the level that I don't have very high standards for gimbals, but like I think Hall Effect or good quality potentiometer gimbals would last longer. So right now, the T16 at the price that it is, it's a really good value. I'm still holding out before I like go, yeah, that's the one for me. I'm still flying my X9D for now. Let's see here. Moving on back. Am I still using the T16? Well, like I said, the X9D is still my primary radio. I have not moved fully to the T16 yet. I'm holding out. Cyril Supplix wants me to review the Orca goggle soon. Here's the thing about the Orca goggle. I'm tired. I feel bad. I anytime I am the least bit critical, people think I'm being negative, and I'm not. But I really want them to show a freaking actual production sample. They keep showing people prototypes, and that's cool. It's nice. If the prototype sucked, then that would be bad. And the prototype doesn't suck. The prototype, people put it on their face and they go, wow, this is really good. Okay, I did that back in January. It was good in January. Why is it June and we still have prototypes? What am I missing here? Well, okay, designing a goggle is hard. But like if Orca were to say to me, hey, do you want to review our goggles? I would say yes, but I want to review the goggle that you're going to be selling, not the hand soldered, whatever, made in your office in Croatia. We all know you can make one. You could make one. Can you make 1,000? That's the question. I want to see the actual production one. So I would love to review the Orca goggle, but it has to actually be the Orca goggle that you'll be buying. I'm tired of... Yeah. It's nice that the prototypes look so good. Okay. Exactly. 2015. One of the things that I've gotten tired of as I have become more sort of settled in my role as a reviewer is I've gotten tired of companies releasing prototypes and then reviewers talking about how awesome a product is. And there's a place for that because, like, if a product is truly groundbreaking, then there's a place for people to say, hey, this is really promising, right? Like right now, I have a high definition FPV camera system that someone sent me. And if it's actually a production version, but if it were a prototype and it were good, I would say, oh, this is promising, because just the promise of that is so good that, like, it's worth mentioning. But like, a new FPV module comes out, or a new FPV module is in development, and people are like, this is going to be so good. And it's like, why don't you just wait until, should I buy Rapid Fire now, or should I buy this other module that won't exist for 3 months? Really? Do you even have to ask that? How? But people just want to be excited about new stuff. And so I see that, and then I want to sort of rein it in. And as a reviewer, I want to go, no, I'm not interested in reviewing a prototype. Send me something that actually a customer could buy, and then I'll review it. Okay. Let's check. I got a ton of super chats coming in. Let's check. Emmanuel Valkov, not a super chat, regular chat. DYS F4 Pro V2 can't connect to Betaflight, only connects after I use the bootloader button. Reflash it, Emmanuel, with the correct firmware target. If you can get into bootloader mode but you can't connect, the answer is to reflash the flight controller. You probably either disabled the MSP protocol by accident in the ports tab. You turned off MSP and now you can't connect. Reflashing it with full chip erase will fix that. Or you flash the wrong target to it. You got to find the correct target. Okay, let's go. I have so many super chats coming in. Thank you for your guys' generosity. TAC FPV gave $2. I already got your super chat. Is TAC the next Rotor Riot pilot? I couldn't say. King Sloth gives 10 Norwegian kroners. No question, just 10 kroners. Thank you. I love kroners. Sounds like a pastry. When I'm going out of the bakery, I'm going to get a kroner. Do you want one? Okay. Carboro Chapel Hill FPV wants me to fly some FPV wings. Gives $2. I'd love to do an iNav build with a wing. I'd love to do a million things, though, and I only have so much time in the day, so it's a shame. Brandon Shepard, thank you for $2. How about getting Betaflight to feel more like KISS? Brandon Shepard, that's a tough one because I haven't flown KISS lately, and I don't know how it feels. I can tell you, I think that the new Betaflight, when I flew Flight 1 Sim mode, which isn't even the latest and greatest now, it's Falco, but I thought, Betaflight 4.0 kind of feels similar to Sim mode, but I unfortunately don't know a lot about KISS, so I'm going to have to thank you for your $2 donation and move on without answering your question. Terrence Balling Jr., thanks for $2, no question. Thomas Winningham, thanks for $5. I have a 65 millimeter brushed. Very fun indoors. Is a brushless like a Mobula better in slight wind outside? Or should I go 3-inch or toothpick? Yeah, Thomas, for outdoor flying, a 3-inch or a toothpick is going to do way better. A Mobula, a 2S 75 millimeter can fly outside, but a 3-inch is way, way better outside. The difference is that a 3-inch open prop is not going to be good at all inside. Like maybe in like a big open, like, lecture hall or something, but certainly not in your house. You can fly 3 inches in your house. It's not ideal though. So the question is, if you're looking for a small quad that is primarily or exclusively for outside, 3-inch or maybe a 2-inch toothpick is the place to go. For indoors though, I want a ducted design because the ducts help protect the props. So even something like the Beta 85X, right, which has the larger props but it's still ducted, that would be a challenge to fly indoors, but at least when you crash it, you're not going to be breaking stuff. That's what I would say. Fear and Loathing in FPV get massive, $25 donation. That's a huge donation. Thank you. No question. Just thank you. Thank you. Miasma FPV question from KVSM at 9:59 in the Discord chat. I will get to the Discord chat in just a bit. Matthew Tan, thanks for $2. Which would I pick? The Beta 75 Pro 2, the trash can, or the Mobula 7? I've flown and I own the trash can and the Mobula 7. I don't have the Beta 75 Pro 2. Let's take a quick look at the Beta 75 Pro 2 and see what we think of it. $100, so it's a little cheaper. Beta 75 Pro 2. That's tough. It's got the EOS camera. I like that. I don't know. This, well, Drone Camps likes it. I couldn't say because I haven't owned this one. But it's newer. I would have to do a little more research to tell you whether I like the Beta 75 Pro 2 yet. But between the Mobula and the trash can, I would take the trash can. The trash can has a much better camera, for one thing. That's one of the things I liked about it. What's my favorite camera, specifically for HDOs? My favorite camera, Milos, is the Eagle. Many people dislike the Eagle, though. I think the Caddx Ratel is also worth looking at. Very, very good picture that a lot of people like. Michael Cecil, thank you for $30. Wow, some crazy super chats in this one. Just a thank you, no question. Drone Excursion, $2. Thanks, saying hi. William Boney, $2. Am I going to review the DJI Osmo? William, I might review it. There's too many good products, and yeah. I don't know. I would like to review it. It would be good for my channel if I reviewed it because I would get views. But quite often I just do whatever I want and not what's good for my channel. So that's it for the super chats. Cecil M wants to know in the regular chat, is the D16 compatible with the QX7? Yes. QX7 uses D16 and D8 protocol. That's correct. Cirrus Johnson, what's the Flux Mode 2? Cirrus, the Flux Mode 2 is a Heliospring flight controller. Heliospring, the company, sort of went out of business, but the Helio flight controller is still basically being manufactured by under the name Flux Mode 2. I don't even know who's making it, to be honest. Daniel wants me to know that the Earth is flat. Really? No. Stop it. Okay. Dobijaisk wants to know if it's safe to charge a LiPo with up to 2C. It is. I think if the LiPo is in healthy condition, I charge as high as 5C if I'm really in a hurry. But safest to charge at between, let's say, 1 and 2C. When I'm charging at 5C, I'm like right there paying attention. And I wouldn't do it with a banged up battery. But I don't think the battery takes damage. I think there's been some tests that show that the battery doesn't really take damage at up to like 5C. The problem is if the battery has high internal resistance when you charge at a higher rate, it will be more likely to blow up, and that's bad. Okay, I got to get to the Discord, to the live stream chat in the Discord. I'm going way back. Let's see. Way back. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. Chamer. Do you have to plug in the receiver to update it to Access before it will do over-the-air updates? Yeah, Chamer, one of the features of FreeSky Access that is so exciting, the new FreeSky Air protocol, is over-the-air updates for receivers. You no longer have to disconnect the receiver or do serial pass-through or plug it into your transmitter to update the firmware. It'll do over-the-air firmware updates. Brilliant. But it has to be Access protocol first. So the first time you update the receiver, you will have to plug it in. And it would be great. Right now, the RXSR and the XM, not the XM Plus, the RXSR and the XM are the two receivers that there's a few others, but they're like for fixed wings. These are the two receivers that quads commonly use that support the Access protocol. It would be great if FreeSky was selling them with the Access pre-flashed. I don't think that they're doing that. So right now, what you'll have to do if you're going to Access protocol is buy the RXSR, flash it. It's not too hard if it's not already installed in a quad. Go ahead and flash it, and then you'll be ready to go. B42 Now says, I just started flying with the Wizard X220. I noticed that the side plates fall out very quickly after a crash. How to fix this? Get a better frame. I'm so sorry. B42 Now, the Wizard X220 is a okay starter quad, but it has a lot of problems, and that's one of the problems. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to solve these problems, and then eventually you're just going to buy a better quad. So every time something goes wrong with that quad, ask yourself, is this the time? Am I going to fix this, or am I going to just get a better quad? I don't know a fix to keep the side plates in. And the problem is that so what I did is I just took the side plates off and I flew it without the side plates, like most frames, but then the top plate breaks. So, hey, you bought a $189 quad, and that's what you got. I like the Wizard for what it is, but there's a lot to dislike about it, too. I like the Wizard because a lot of people would not be in this hobby if they hadn't started with a Wizard. But I dislike the Wizard because it's actually objectively, I mean, for the price, forget the price. Forgetting the price, the Wizard is not a good quad. It makes so many compromises. But it gets people into the hobby, and for that, we have to thank it. Chamber, if you have the box and you set the box to 4K, you get 4K because there's no scaling. The problem is when the box tries to scale from 4K, which is the native resolution of the sensor, down to 2.7K, it actually ends up scaling to 1080 and then back up to 2.7K, sort of is what's happening. That's at least what RC Shim is proposing. RC Shim is a hell of a reviewer. Yeah, Ghost Branch FPV says he's one of the first reviewers I know of to start doing camera latency testing using like an oscilloscope and a photodiode. I know that Oscar Leong also does this, and I know that Drone Mesh also does this. RC Shim, I don't know if he was the first, but he was certainly one of the first. He really digs into camera reviews. He seems to really like camera reviews. Let's see here. Looking for chats here. Brett says, I think we need a European Rotor Riot pilot. Here's the thing, Brett. Whenever you think of your favorite pilot and you go, why aren't they a Rotor Riot pilot? There are some basic sort of logistical requirements to being a Rotor Riot pilot, and one of them is that you have to be able to appear in episodes. So Rotor Riot shoots episodes about once a month, about once every 4 weeks. A whole bunch of people will fly typically to Orlando these days and just get an Airbnb for like 5 days and just shoot episodes. And that is the next month's worth of episodes. So for a European pilot, that would be pretty challenging. And that's one of the reasons like why if you think of like Lexi Jansen, when Rotor Riot went over to Croatia to shoot those episodes, Lexi did a road trip and shot a bunch of episodes with Drew and Alex. Why isn't Lexi a Rotor Riot pilot? Well, one reason might be that she lives in Europe, and flying to the United States once a month would be super expensive and time consuming for her. So that's one of the things. What's a good upgraded all-in-one camera for the Mobulus 7? A camera that people, so the trash can comes with the Caddx EOS camera. That's a good upgrade, but it's not an all-in-one. It doesn't have the VTX attached, I don't think. Is Falco X any good, says Brett. A lot of people say Falco X is amazing. Evan Turner, who is not sponsored by, he just flies, he won nationals a few months ago with Betaflight, so he's not really a Flight One fanboy. He said, if you're not flying Falco X, you are at a competitive disadvantage. That's a strong endorsement. E. Tardvark wants to know if bidirectional D-Shot is likely to be a replacement for ESC telemetry in the future. No, bidirectional D-Shot carries only the RPM information. Now, if you want current sensing, bidirectional D-Shot doesn't do that. However, a lot of ESC manufacturers are moving away from current sensing in ESC telemetry. This is really interesting. If you have a T-Motor F55 and you set up ESC telemetry, you will not get current data. If you set your current sensor to ESC sensor, you just get 0 amps. And I'm not sure why they're doing this. They still support ESC telemetry, but the current data is only analog. So I could see a world where RPM data comes from D-Shot telemetry, current data comes from analog current sensing, and the only thing left for ESC telemetry would be temperature, which who cares? So I could see a world where ESC telemetry goes away, but it's not because bidirectional D-Shot is going to completely replace it. Let's see here. I need to get caught up here. Can you have too many TV lines? Asks XZLR8N. Yeah, you're right. The TV lines, the resolution of your goggles is about 800 by 600 at most. And then you've got like 1200 TV lines. The thing that you may not know is TV lines is vertical. Technically, it's horizontal. It's not horizontal lines. It's vertical lines. So when you buy a 1200 TV line camera, it only outputs whatever NTSC 600 or something lines of horizontal scan lines. That's just defined by the NTSC or the PAL spec. The TV line actually refers to the horizontal resolution or vertical lines. And I didn't know this for the longest time. I was like, hang on, let's take a look here. I was like, what's the point of 1,000 TV line camera if the NTSC spec says there's only 625 lines? The NTSC and PAL spec define the horizontal resolution. So a larger TV line camera is going to have more detail. Where is, show me the TV line comparison. Hang on. This website is terrible. Hang on. Hang on. There's an image somewhere that I'm looking for. Oh, here. I should do it here. Yes, there we go. What is TV lines? Here we go. Thank you, Wikipedia, as usual. So to calculate TV lines, what you do is you use a test pattern with vertical lines, and you measure the camera's ability to resolve the vertical lines. The horizontal resolution is fixed. The vertical resolution is what you're measuring. So a higher TV line camera will sometimes will give a better picture, even though your goggle resolution is fixed. However, you are right to suspect that there's a limit there, like 1,200 versus 1,000 versus 800 TV lines. Are you going to notice a difference? Probably not. Mr. Mistro wants to know, when RunCam OSD is on, does this override the Betaflight OSD, and how do you turn it off? Hold up on the joystick for 2 seconds. You get the OSD menu, and you can turn it off. Okay. Headed back to the regular chat now. The Discord is very active right now. Headed back to the regular chat. Yeah, Preston points out there's a Sony standard that uses 960 lines, mostly used in security cams. There are high-definition analog protocols. Security cameras sometimes just use digital HD, but some of them use analog high def. We're not using that over the air because we don't have the bandwidth, though. James Hallways wants to know, what size battery do I typically fly? For 4S, I typically fly about 1,500 milliamp hour. I tend to like the bigger batteries. I don't mind the extra weight, and I prefer the longer flight time and less battery sag. For 6S, you would think that would mean I would prefer like 1050 milliamp hours, since it's approximately the same weight and watt hours. But actually, on 6S, I tend to like 1250, even though it's a bigger, heavier battery. I just like the way the quad flies, and I don't know why that is. Do bad motors affect ESCs in the long run? I mean, I guess a bad motor could cause like more voltage spikes or more current to be pulled. I don't know about that. I Am Fotis wants to know, which temperature limits are normal for a 4-in-1 ESC? 45 to 60 Celsius is okay. I Am Fotis, I don't know like what the manufacturer would say for the temperature limit, but in general, for electronics, 60 Celsius is no problem. In general, an electronic device like a transistor or a microprocessor getting up to 45 to 60 C is no big deal. Somewhere between 60 and 70 C, you start seeing issues come up, but as much as maybe 90 C is still not actually dangerous. So I would say 45 to 60 C is 100% okay. Charles Phillips is having a camera cut out on flips and rolls. The issue there, Charles, so here's what I would do, Charles. You change the camera, and that's good, but that actually wouldn't have been my first move. If your camera cuts out on flips and rolls, the first thing I want to know is it rebooting? And if you just put your goggles on, plug your battery in, and look, you should be able to see the camera boot up. It'll sometimes show like a RunCam logo or something. So I want to see if the camera is rebooting or losing power, and that will tell me if the power connection to the camera is stable or if we're losing video. The other thing is, do you still see OSD? In other words, does the camera go black, but the OSD is still there? That would indicate the video signal maybe is cutting out, but the flight controller and the VTX are fine. So we want to just work our way from the camera to the flight controller to the VTX and troubleshoot the power and the signal. Okay? If the camera drops out and the OSD drops out and you see black screen, that would tell you that the problem is between the flight controller and the VTX, because the flight controller generates the OSD, okay? If you see static, that tells you the VTX is going away, because yeah. So that's how I would troubleshoot that, Charles. Usually the issue there is either a broken or loose signal wire that is getting jostled when you do a sharp move. Like inside the pin, the signal wire has broken off and it's just barely held on. Or you can have a voltage regulator that's dropping out, and you would see the camera reboot. You can solve that problem by connecting the camera to VBAT. Now, you're going to get more video noise typically when you power the camera from VBAT, but it'll guarantee that your voltage regulator won't drop out. There you go. Hello from Singapore, says DC. Sheep will scare me, says, do you think RPM filtering in Betaflight's ready for prime time? Personally, I would wait. It is still in beta. They are still calling it beta. I would not disagree with them. It is, the people who are working on it tell me it is relatively stable, but there are always, think about Betaflight 4.0. Like, there's, how many test pilots do the devs have? Is it 50? If it was 50 people who are sort of part of the development group and test flying, I would be surprised if it's that many. And so, like, look at Betaflight 4.0. They thought they had the defaults. They released it. There's 250,000 is the estimated user base, or it's in the hundreds of thousands is the estimated Betaflight user base. I don't remember the exact number. And so they release it, and suddenly people find problems. So I would not. RPM filtering is, if the firmware is messed up, the ESC can just cause the motors to spin unexpectedly. I would consider it really risky. Frankly, the day that they say, here's Betaflight 4.1 and BL Heli 32.9 or whatever it is, time for RPM filtering, I would still be careful on that day, because there's some chance that somebody's going to get their face cut off because there's a bug in the ESC firmware and just you didn't catch it. So be careful. Papa Doc says, in Betaflight or BL Heli, motor control 4 controls motors 3 and 4. The answer there is, Papa Doc, usually the problem there is that you have two signal wires touching each other. Either the signal wire or it's usually inside the plug, there's a bent pin, and the pin has been pushed over. So when you plugged it in, the pin number 4, motor 4, didn't seat and got pushed over, and now it's touching pin number 3. So whenever you raise the slider and two motors spin at the same time, it means usually there's a signal wires touching. Stan Rowland asks, hey, JB, about a month ago I asked whether I should get HD3s or HDOs, and you told me HD3s. Now HD3 is end of life. What should I do? Should I buy the HDO or should I wait for something else? You probably can still find HD3s somewhere if you look hard enough. I think the HD3 is still a pretty good value. It's a good goggle. I can tell you, if you're in the $400-ish range and you're wanting to buy HDOs, you can go ahead and do it. I don't know of anything like in the pipeline or anything like that. That being said, I mean, I'll say that, and then tomorrow Fat Shark will make a press release saying they're announcing a new goggle. I don't know. But right now, based on the information I have, you can go ahead and buy the HDO. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. I was a thumber. Eric Dunlap wants to know if I have ever been a thumber. I was a thumber. I switched to pinching from thumbs, and I felt like it gave me more precision, and I stuck with it. Down in the super chat. Let's catch up on the super chat. Saul G wants to know, what's a good FPV podcast you recommend listening? Saul, Bot Grinder has a podcast he does. I was on it. I forget the name of it, and I'm not going to find links to it. But Bot Grinder has a podcast he does. It's nice. It's short. It's pithy. It's fun. There is Let's Drone Out is another one that I know of. You can Google search Let's Drone Out. I'm pretty sure they're still doing it. Jesse Williams, thanks for $2. If I was wanting to get 107 certified, how hard is it? Jesse, everybody I know who has the 107 just says, you take the class, you study, you memorize some things, and then you pass the test. They say it's not that hard. It just depends on how good you are at memorizing information and taking tests. If you have a real problem with that, then you may struggle, but it's not that hard. Tim Mack, thanks for $2. Tim wants to know how much voltage drop is okay during full punch. That's a tough one, Tim. I would struggle to give you like a certain number of volts. I will tell you that if I'm like a minute and a half into the flight and I'm jamming the throttle and it's getting down to 3.5 volts per cell, then I'm annoyed. So basically it's how long can I fly without being annoyed by the fact that I'm getting low voltage warnings. That's the real question. I like to fly. If I can't get, say, 2.5 to 3 minutes off my batteries at minimum, then I'm kind of annoyed with that situation and I want something else. What you'll find is at the beginning of the pack, if you start punching the throttle, it's going to sag, but it'll be okay. By about 30 or 45 seconds into the flight, if the battery's bad, it's immediately going to start sagging and hitting that 3.5 volt low voltage threshold. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, this guy's done. Marcos Huerta, when I do a flipper roll, oh, thank you for $5, Marcos. When I do a flipper roll, it feels like the quad keeps going real loosey-goosey at the end of the flipper roll. That's tough, Marcos. I'm not sure what you mean by loosey-goosey at the end of the flip or roll. You want like a sharper stop, or do you feel like you're losing control? I guess if you want a sharper stop, I would raise P gain. I guess. It's hard to know what loosey-goosey means, though. Marcos, message me on Facebook, and let's talk about this some more. Derek Byers, thanks for $5. That's it. Just bought my first website setup based on your website and videos. Thank you, Derek. Cecil M, thanks for $2. Is the release date for the RunCam 5 known yet? Asks Adam Pokorny. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think they've announced a release date. However, they did say that they were sending me one. I complained about the fact that they declined to send me one, and they changed their mind and sent me one. So good. I'll be reviewing the RunCam 5 soon. Looking to upgrade my FC, says Alex Frangia. Would you recommend going straight to an F7, or are F4 boards still relevant now or looking ahead? Alex, that's a tough question to answer because when Betaflight was doing 32 kilohertz, F7 was needed to get the highest PID rates. But now that Betaflight has dropped 32K support as unneeded, you're just running at 8K, and F4 processors can easily run at 8K. But with bidirectional D-shot RPM filtering, that's actually pretty processor intensive. And an F4 can only run at 4K. The question is, do you need it? I think there is still some room for future-proofing with an F7. And when you get an F7, you no longer have to think about UART inversion BS. So F7s, if I were shopping today and there were an F7 I liked, I would feel good about buying it. But F4s are still cheaper, and especially now that Betaflight doesn't do 32K anymore, F4s can basically run as fast as you need them to. Going back to the Discord real quick. Is the Arum, Clown wants to know, is the Arum Polar X all talk or actually a solid replacement? I am so curious about this. Let's talk about the Arum Polar. This is a new antenna released by TBS. And here's what's weird about this. It's a linear antenna. Didn't we, learn that circular polarized antennas were better? Why is it a linear antenna? I don't know. And I have been talking with Alex Grieve, Alex Grieve, I'd be crazy about this. And he also is completely befuddled about this. Also, there's the Arum Polar X, which is linear, but then there's the Arum, the other one, the Polar S, and that one is circular polarized, and it says it transmits left-hand and right-hand circular at the same time. But if it actually did transmit left-hand and right-hand signal at the same time, they would cancel each other out and become linear. So Alex Grieve and I are both very confused about this. And so I bought some. I bought some of these, and I'm sending them to him. He actually volunteered to do this. I'm sending them to him. He is going to put them on his analyzer machine and figure out what the hell they do. And then I'm going to review them. I'm going to fly them, because ultimately, I mean, you fly them. Here's what I'll say. It's possible that linear antennas, it used to be that linear antennas sucked, and the only way to get decent range was to use a cloverleaf. Remember when cloverleaf antennas first came out? Well, no, some of you don't. Some of you have only been in the hobby for a couple of years. We used to use linear antennas. Our range was crap, and Alex Grieve was one of the people who pioneered cloverleaf antennas and circular polarization, which greatly increased our performance. Maybe our video transmitters, and especially our receivers, have gotten better to the point where we don't absolutely need circular polarized anymore, and linear is good enough. Maybe. And if that's true, I mean, linear antennas are smaller, they're lighter. This little flat antenna you just stick to the front of your goggles, and you don't need to take your antennas off every time you put it away. There may be something to this, but I don't know. Anyway, I have those antennas. I will be mailing them to I'd Be Crazy. He is going to test them. And for those who say, you know, when I was going to test the TBS Unify, some people said, well, he might be biased because he has worked with TBS in the past. Well, here he definitely thinks this antenna is kind of a load of BS. So he's biased against it in this case. But I trust him as an engineer and as a scientist that he will be fair in his testing, because mostly we just are like, WTF is going on here, and we want to know. So that's the answer there. Wizard Killer X220 HV Mark IV. What is the Wizard Killer? Simon Saucy wants to know, how is this for a cheap second quad? I want one that's freestyle under $200 that can hold a GoPro. Rotor builds. I see. This is like somebody upgraded their Wizard HV. No, this is the Wizard Killer. I see. Oh, I like this idea. So this guy is basically trying to build on Rotor Builds. By the way, if you don't know, rotorbuilds.com is a website where people can upload their builds, and for people looking for a parts list, this is a great resource. So this guy's trying to build something better than a Wizard HV and cheaper. That's fantastic. I mean, you have to build it yourself, so that's why it's cheaper. But I mean, here's the thing. I like it. I'm completely sold on the idea that if you build it yourself, you can build something way better than a Wizard HV for the same price. That's a fact. The Wizard HV is as cheap as it is because you don't have to build it. So yeah, I love it. Simon Saucy, go for it. Let's actually look at it. Let's look at the parts list. Where's the parts list? Falcor camera, Eco motors, good. Like, where's just the parts list? Can I just have a parts list? I know Rotor Builds does that. Here's all the Q&A. Here we go. Wizard frame. Okay, the Wizard frame is actually not terrible. It's actually not a bad frame. For $30, it's especially not bad. Mamba flight controller. I like the Diatone Mamba flight controller. It's a good value. Motors. Emax Eco Series. These are okay motors for the price, but they're often out of stock. Windancer 5043. That's an okay choice of prop. For a beginner, for a freestyle especially. You could probably use a more aggressive prop if you want to. Foxer Falcor is an okay camera. It needs to be a mini-size camera for this frame. The Falcor is a good mini camera. I like it better than the Predator, that's for sure. Eachine TX806. I don't know this one. Smart audio, though. MMCX. Okay. Yashi makes good video transmitters. FreeSky XM Plus. I would personally probably use the RXSR receiver because it supports telemetry, and I like having telemetry. Yeah. GN Beam, good batteries. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is a good build. Yeah, do it. Do it. Go for it. Grimy Gravy says, what's something you keep in your flight bag that you think more people should use or know about? That's a good question. I should just go look at my flight bag. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's a good question. I have to think about that. I guess what's coming to my mind is a smoke stopper. I keep a smoke stopper with me when I travel, and I find it really useful for various reasons. That's going to be my answer. Okay. Frank Barajas wants to know, how big is the FPV community? Are there any hard numbers for FPV versus, say, DJI? Frank Barajas, one second, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Pardon me. Frank, people have tried to estimate this, and there are various ways of estimating it. Obviously, people in the industry are very interested. The number that I consistently hear is in the single-digit hundreds of thousands. So I feel pretty confident on that number. Everybody I talk to, they estimate the number different ways. Like Fat Shark says, well, we estimate we have such and such % of market share, and here's how many goggles we sold in the last year. Betaflight devs say, here's how many people download Betaflight when we release it. That's a pretty reliable number. Everybody comes up with a number around, say, 1 to 300,000 for the FPV community. That's I feel pretty confident about that number. And it's interesting because when you think about that number, you can say, well, why don't we have an action camera more? Why is all the stuff we buy so shitty? That's actually what the question boils down to. Like, even the best stuff that we get is kind of shitty. Like, think about the quality of our flight controllers compared to something like a Sony television. Like, the stuff we get is good enough, but it's not, like, good in that way. And the reason is that we're a very small market. There's only a few 100,000 of us. It's the same reason why Fat Shark goggles are so expensive. I know a lot of people out there think that they're overpriced. But when you actually consider, they're like, I can get a Sony TV for the price of a Fat Shark goggle. And it's like, yeah, but they made 10 million of those or whatever. We only made 3,000. And that's why they're more expensive. So, yeah, there's your answer, Frank. Getting back to the regular chat. Ooh, we are busy. We are hopping today. How many people do we have in the peak concurrent? Total, 484 viewers. We are hopping today. Let's go back to the regular chat. MC's Creations says Fat Sharks are overpriced. Oh, yeah. Krustar wants to know, can you give us an overview about different gyro chips and how they perform? Is there any difference to feel on the sticks? Krustar, I don't think that the gyro is the primary thing to determine stick feel. However, the gyro can determine how much filtering you can tolerate and how your tune behaves, and that does affect stick feel. But I don't think the gyro actually affects stick feel. The gyros in use today are, there's the ICM series gyros, the ICM 2802 and so forth. Those do 32K sampling. There's the MPU 6000 gyro, which is still used. There are a few others, but those are the main ones that are used today, either the MPU 6000 or the ICM series. The MPU maxes out at 8K. It cannot do 32K sampling. But it has a little bit, the difference, people have told me, I don't know if this is true, but the difference is that the MPU 6000 has 3 separate sensor elements for the X, the Y, and the Z axis, whereas the ICM series gyros use a single sensor element for all the 3 axes. And that means that on the ICM gyro, noise on one axis can cause saturation on other axes, and that's why the ICM gyros are more sensitive to gyro noise, whereas the MPU 6000 is less sensitive. So the bottom line is that if you're running at 8K, it doesn't matter too much, but the MPU 6000 is a little better. If you're running at 32K, then you kind of have to use the ICM series, and that's that. How often? Nabi Fafaf, thank you for asking. Nabi Fafaf asks, how often do you update your shopping list? And since we're coming up on the hour, I'll take a second. Well, what shopping list? This is my website, fpvknowitall.com. And one of the things I maintain there is the ultimate FPV shopping list. And the question is, how often do I update it? Well, actually, I update it pretty freaking regularly. This particular page was last updated May 29th. That was about 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah, update it all the time. Basically, every week I sit down, usually on Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. I sit down and I go through. Oh, great. She's caught up. I go through, and these are my to-do items right now, outstanding. But you can see these are the updates we've done lately to the shopping list. It is constantly being updated, adding new products and so forth. I haven't updated the graphics in like a year. So, but that's not where I focus. My focus is on keeping the parts up to date, making sure that like all the stuff that's there is good. Like we recently added the Lux F7, added the Maytech F722 SE. I want to add a diatone flight controller. It deserves to be on there. The ESCs, like if you look at it, you go, well, this ESC, well, Racer Star has just been a cheap ESC forever. So until something better and cheaper comes along, this is just what I'm going to recommend. So I'm not like, the thing is, I don't update the list just to update it. Like I would make more affiliate sales if I was like, oh, this is new and hot, and I just put it on there to get your clicks. But that's not what I do. I try to put products on there that are solid, that I know you'll have a good experience with, or at least a predictable experience. And when a brand new product comes out, I don't put it on there just because it's brand new and hot. And so that means it doesn't appear to update as often as you might think it would. Oh yeah, F55. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's how often I update it. Thank you for asking. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug that. Smoke stoppers and my thoughts on let's see here. More motor suggestions. Bit Vasconcelos. The problem with motors is there's so many good motors out there that I don't want to. The problem is that the point of the list is that when especially a beginner comes into the hobby, they are often overwhelmed by the number of products that are out there. And so the goal of the list is to kind of cut through that and boil it down. And there's already like 10 motors on the list, and that's almost feels like too many. So there's that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. Controller Man Dan wants to get the Diatone GT R349. Has a Turnigy Evo. Controller Man Dan, I believe the Turnigy Evo uses FlySky protocol. So I think you can get one of the FlySky. You could look at one of the micro FlySky receivers. I believe that would work. Yeah. Can ESCs be fried because of incorrect firmware on the flight controller? No, probably not. That's unlikely that you would fry it. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I think it's unlikely. Keith Stewart, I'm using iBus from the Turnigy Evolution. I can't get failsafe to work when testing by powering down the transmitter. Keith, you may need to change the failsafe setting on the receiver. There may be a way to... that's not typically how FlySky iBus works. You set failsafe on the transmitter. Like, I'm just going to Google this real quick. What about this? How to set up failsafe with Turnigy Evolution. Is this too obvious? Would this video help you? Maybe so. Hope so. Let's check the super chats real quick. Let's check the super. How far back do I need to go? Cecil M. Anthony Teasdale just saying hi. Thank you, Anthony. Rock Rider, €2. Who is Skyzone? No website, no CS, customer service. They are ghosts. Yeah, Rock Rider. Skyzone is a Chinese company. There is a guy out there. If you go to the Skyzone FPV or Skyzone Hobbies Facebook page and message their Facebook page, this dude will answer. He's the same guy. There's a couple guys I talk to whenever Skyzone has a product they want me to review. They do exist, but they kind of don't really have a company presence like customer service. So you should take that into consideration when you're thinking about buying them. It's one of the reasons that I consistently recommend Fat Shark, because no matter what you think about their product, the fact is that they have customer service and service centers, and that should count for something. Lervik FPV, 14 kroners, Norwegian kroners, and a unicorn. Thank you. Ian Pluska, thanks for $20. No question. Thank you for $20. That's a massive donation. Edwin Ramirez, thanks for $1. Yohalmo, thank you for $10. Says, I'm having issues with one motor spinning faster than the others when they arm the RSX 220. Yohalmo, it is completely normal when you arm the quad with props off for the motors to spin at different speeds. I have a video about this, but since you gave me a $10 super chat, I'll take 3 seconds of my time and tell you personally. What happens is when the props are off, the quadcopter, the flight controller is still trying to fly the quad. The PID controller is still active, and it may try to make the quad pitch left or right a little bit, but since the props are off, nothing happens. And that creates a feedback loop where the quadcopter continues to try and do it, and what you'll often end up with is one motor maxed out and the other motor's spinning at minimum. The bottom line is when you arm the quad with props off, weird shit happens. Don't worry about it. Probably everything's fine, and if you put the props on and go to hover, it will be fine. But especially if the props are off and you arm the quad and it goes, that could be bad. If it goes, that's normal. Don't worry about that. Probably you should put the props on, go somewhere safe, arm the quad, try to hover. Be ready for it to flip out, but it probably won't flip out. Let's see here. Grimy Gravy wants to know, in the Discord, hi Discord, hi patrons, would I advocate for everyone to use GPS if they can? I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. It's great peace of mind. Yeah, Grimy Gravy, if you have room to fit GPS on your quad, it is amazing to have. It's nice to have GPS just because you know how fast you're going, and that's pretty cool. But I was sold on GPS when I was flying, and somebody knocked me out of the air. They powered up near me. And as I lost video, I hit the GPS rescue switch, and my quadcopter leveled out and took off and started flying home. And I started shouting, unplug, unplug, unplug! And they unplugged, and I got video back, and I was able to land, and it saved me from a crash. So the thing is, it's just one more thing to solder up. And if you do a lot of builds, it does sort of add up, and it's one more thing to break. You know, I did my perfect freestyle build, and I put smart audio, crossfire, camera control. I put all the bells and whistles, and every time I have to repair one of these quads, on some level I think maybe it would be better if I didn't put so much shit on it. You know? So, I mean, GPS is just one more thing to build and one more thing to break, but it is wonderful having it. Smeg90 in the Discord asks, do I lubricate my motors? No, I do not. The bearings come pre-lubed from the factory, and they come pre-lubed with a grease. If you lubricate the bearings with an oil, the oil will dilute and wash out the grease. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that now you have to keep oiling the bearings because the oil will run out, whereas the grease will stay in. The bearings that we have on our motors are shielded bearings. They're not fully sealed, but they are shielded, and they are relatively impervious to things like dirt and so forth. If you have a bearing that's rough and grumbly, probably it's the bearing breaking down, not junk getting in the bearings. The other thing is, if you decide to lubricate your bearings, like if you look at the guys who are serious about it, they don't just I'll just put a few drops of lubrication on here. That's not how they do it. They take the bearings out, they soak the bearings in the oil overnight to really let it soak in. If you just take an applicator and you just dip a couple drops, it's no guarantee it's actually going to get into the bearing. It might. So I just don't. By the time I have bad bearings, I probably have a destroyed motor, and I just move on. I get a new motor. That's a little bit my privilege. I have a little bit of privilege as a YouTuber and a reviewer and somebody as a pro. Have you ever noticed pros, they're just I'll just get a new one. It's a business expense, right? So if I were still a hobbyist who was on a very, very tight budget and I had a rough motor, I might not be so cavalier. But if you think about it, bearings are $1 or $2 a piece. Well, depending on your motor might be, you know, $15. So you're going to replace 2 bearings. That's $4. Okay, you save $10, but then you got to take the motor apart. You got to put it back together. Half the time I destroy the motor taking it apart, trying to get the bearings out. And then some level I'm like, ooh, I could just get a new set of motors. So I don't do it. There we go. Is the Foxier Aero Mini Pro okay for a fast wing? Sure, ENF. The Foxier Aero Mini is a good budget camera. Yeah, for sure. Okay, back to the regular chat. John in the Eagle. Hey, Joshua, I have a weird wobbling prop noise. I tested HQ props and T-motor props. HQ props are working fine. Hard to know, John, what the exact nature of your noise is without hearing it. If you have prop noise at high throttle, you may be getting prop deflection. With a floppier prop and a high kV motor, you may be getting prop deflection. If you have a certain prop that doesn't make the noise, then don't use that prop, or use the prop that doesn't make the noise. Let's see. Where to buy Dominator V3s, asks Jake. Jake, the Dom V3 has been discontinued for a while, and I don't know anywhere that has it in stock. IPR 213 wants to know if I have any experience with the Maytech F722 SE. IPR 213, I reviewed the Lumineer Lux F7, which is basically the same as the Maytech F722 SE, except that the Maytech has a PDB built in and the Lumineer does not. So I like that, and in fact it is on my Ultimate FPV shopping list. So I think it's a good flight controller. Can I share my thoughts? Free wants to know if I can share my thoughts on the Speedix Rex HD 80mm whoop. Well, okay. Let's give it a try. The Speedix Rex HD 80mm. I didn't know Speedix. So the price is in about the same range as things like the Mobula. What kind of motors has it got? Bottom mount battery. Oh, you can, I see. Well, that's very clever. What connector? It has an XT30 connector. That's good. It's got, I guess it's got an adapter if you want to do the, no, don't do this though. I mean, I guess you can. But by the time you're up to a quad this heavy, you probably want to use the XT30 with a dedicated battery. Let's see. Runcam split. It has the Runcam split instead of the Caddx Turtle. Some people have been annoyed with the Caddx Turtle having some reliability issues. Personally, the Caddx Turtle has always been good to me. But if you prefer the Runcam split, that would definitely be one reason to go with this one. F4 flight controller. That's nice. Does it have the Crazy Bee flight controller? That would be an interesting question, an interesting distinguishing point. What's the motor? 1103, 11,000 kV. So, I'd have to see it fly. One of the big things, so it's got this plastic frame, and I can't zoom in on the picture. That's unfortunate. It's got this plastic frame. I have, my experience, those need to be designed correctly to get good results, especially for a Cinewhoop where you need smooth flying. I would want to fly it or see a review of somebody who flew it before I gave it a commitment, because the design of this frame can really affect how the quad flies and can make or break it. And in terms of the parts, though, seems pretty good. Yeah. So, there you go. Let's see here. Nick Burns probably did review it. Michael Benjamin. Nick Burns does a lot of micro reviews, so definitely. When is the 6S JB parallel board going to be available? You mean, no, not that, Hang on. You mean this one? Okay, it's out of stock. Are you saying, when is it going to be in stock? I don't know about that. Ready Made RC is the manufacturer of this one. Let's see. Do they have it in stock? In stock, back order. So I don't know when it will be in stock, unfortunately. I assume that they are ordering it, and it will be in stock at Ready Made RC first, since they're the manufacturer. So that's I would go and hit this button, notify me when it's in stock, and they will tell you when it's in stock. David Gregorian is having a problem with the Betaflight PIDs and receiver tab not responding. David, when you say the PID tab doesn't respond, what does that mean? I mean, it should respond. I mean, the PID tab it doesn't. If you're plugged into USB, the PID tab should be responding. So I'm a little confused there, David, as to what exactly you mean. Is the FreeSky Horus X12S worth it for freestyle and such? I have the opportunity to get one for free. Tyler Gates, if you have the opportunity to get a Horus X, I mean, that's like a $500 radio, and someone's giving you one for free. Why are you asking me about this on a live stream? Get it for free, and if you don't like it, sell it. Right? You don't have to ask, just take it. Use it. See if you like it. Don't like it? Now you have $500. Buy whatever you want. Next. David says the preview doesn't move. You mean, David, the oh good, BUHE FPV that's showing the 6S parallel board is in stock at hobbyrc.co.uk. Well, that's fine, but if you're in the US, you probably aren't going to order from there. The preview doesn't move. David, it sounds like you're trying to get your receiver working. It sounds like you're trying to get your receiver working, and the preview and the receiver tab isn't working. How to get your receiver working is going to vary depending on which flight controller and receiver you've got. So exactly how to hook it up, I would say message me offline, message me on Facebook or something, and let's talk about it. But I don't think I'm going to be able to talk you through that in the live stream, just because there's so many different permutations. Where can I post a question longer than 200 characters, Stephen Rossi? You can message me offline, and I'll do my best to help you. Homo Hereticus wants to know if I can elaborate on my statement from the video with Cricket about frames. How does geometry and construction of a frame influence the smoothness of flight? Well, Homo, I don't remember the exact question, but how does the geometry and construction of a frame influence the smoothness of the frame? A frame that is stiff and doesn't have resonance issues is going to have smoother video with less jello and less mid-throttle oscillation. And then a larger frame is going to be more smooth in terms of its agility. So if you compare like the Armatan Marmot, which is a larger wheelbase, compared to like the Armatan Chameleon, which is a smaller wheelbase, or even going down to something like a 3-inch quad, the smaller the wheelbase is, the more centralized the weight and the more sort of agile or nimble it is, but also the less sort of smooth. That's why like the Cinewhoops are such an interesting thing, because you're trying to get smooth flight out of a very small frame. But the bigger frames are steadier and smoother. And then you get to something like a Stretch X, where it's going to be a little bit sort of smoother on the pitch axis only. That's how those things come together. Do I plan on reviewing the Sailfly? I don't think so. What's a Sailfly? Oh, the Sailfly. Here's the thing about the Sailfly. If I was going to review the Sailfly, I would have to review the Toothpick first, because the Sailfly is... Did Kebab have anything to do with this? I mean, the Sailfly is clearly just a toothpick. So Happy Model saw the toothpick and went, we can do that. And they made one. But it just feels like it would be a little bit of a slap in the face to Kebab if I didn't review the toothpick first before I reviewed the Sailfly. Right? Am I wrong about that? Thank you for the question, Expert Minecraft. Yeah, Sheeple Scare Me points out bigger frames like 7-inch are harder to tune. That is true. As you get to the larger frames, you start to remember why we moved back down to small 5-inch props. 5-inch is really a sweet spot when it comes to tunability, agility, performance, speed, etc. Larger frames, you get more stability and you could get more efficiency and longer flight time. But they get a lot harder to tune. That is absolutely true. Krishtar wants to know where I get my fancy Tyrannus switch knobs and pots. Krishtar, this is the black edition Tyrannus. I bought this. It comes with these fancy pots and these different switches. These are just silicone switch covers that you can get from Banggood. Silicone switch covers. I have a link to them on the shopping list or in my review of this radio. Dire Havoc points out that production on the Kebab frame is pretty slow. That is a good point. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody. If you want to buy the Sailfly, I definitely understand the impulse to buy a production product instead of kind of a hand-built one-off. I'm not suggesting that Kebab personally cuts those. I'm imagining Kebab in his office with a dental drill, cutting a carbon fiber sheet. Hold on, I have to get this made. But certainly there's times when you'll have production issues with the original and people will buy the clone. I'm not criticizing anybody for buying the Sailfly. I'm just saying if I was going to review the Sailfly, I'd probably want to do Kebab the solid, just because I know him and, you know. Bob himself is reviewing the Sailfly? Okay, well then that's just fair game. Kebab has never been one to be too upset about clones. Honestly, he has some of the most prominent frame designs out there in the floss, and he's never been too mad about people who copy him. So, any thoughts on the H7 and its potential? The H7 is the new H7 Ultimate flight controller from SP Racing, from Dominic Clifton. And H7 is the fastest processor used on a Betaflight flight controller today, or Clean Flight. It's a little confusing because the flight controllers go F1, F3, F4. What happened to F2? I don't know. F1, F3, F4, F7. What happened to F5 and F6? I don't know. And then H7. So, okay, fine. That makes sense. The H7 is total overkill today. There's nothing that Betaflight does that requires it. But then Dominic put all these new features in, like PID audio and the ability to flash firmware from the SD card. And it's super cool that he's done this. It's hard to know how necessary that's going to be because these features only his flight controller supports them. So it's cute, it's distinguishing, but I don't think it's really necessary. Thank you, Kyle K, for the link. Let me just check the super chats real quick. Just a few still coming in. Edrone gives $5 and asks, just curious, are you still using Crossfire regularly? Do you notice a big difference? I use Crossfire on all my primary quads. I have switched to it. I don't notice a big difference in the latency. Sorry, I'm just not that guy. What I do notice though is, number one, the range is amazing. Basically, I never think about failsafe anymore, ever. That's worth something. And the other thing is that things like the over-the-air updates are fantastic. I updated the firmware on my Crossfire module, and then I grabbed a quad and I went out to fly. And when I got there, I hadn't updated that receiver yet. And if I had been using FreeSky, I would have been just dead in the water. But because Crossfire can do over-the-air updates, all I have to do is put the module into bind mode, plug the transmitter, plug the quad in. And you don't even have to push the bind button anymore. I'm pretty sure you used to. But what Crossfire does right now is, if the receiver boots up and after like 10 seconds it's not bound, it enters bind mode automatically. You don't even have to push the bind button. You literally just put your transmitter into bind mode, plug in your quad, and 10 seconds later it goes, do you want to update this firmware? Yes. 2 minutes later, you're done and you're in the air. That's so crazy good. So, Blake Terra says that Rugi was pretty mad when Happy Model released the copy of the toothpick. I didn't know that. All I know is I asked him about the Eachine Wizard TS215. Looks a lot like, it clearly borrows some inspiration from his frame, and he was like, I ain't even mad. So, Any reason why Betaflight can't have presets for 7-inch and up? It does have, well, so Betaflight doesn't have presets. I wish that in the Betaflight configurator we could have presets, but there is a Wikipedia page, the Betaflight Community presets page, and there are presets. I'm going to paste this in the chat. There are presets for larger quads there that you can try. Be warned, though. Some people have tried these presets and said, oh, no, it didn't work for me. There's not a guarantee that these presets will work for everyone, but it is something to try. Dobiasek wants to know, my VTX cannot enter pit mode. A lot of smart audio VTXs will refuse to enter pit mode after they power up. They will power up in pit mode, but after they power up, they won't go back into pit mode. So that's actually not that normal. Thomas Neal wants to know why he is being ignored. I'm not ignoring you personally, Thomas. There are just too many questions for me to answer them all. I did see your name there, and I saw your question, and I did answer it. Unfortunately, I answered your question about why you're being ignored. It's probably not what you were hoping for. Eric Toman, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Stephen Rossi, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Let's get back to the Discord. I've been ignoring the Discord for too long. You know, honestly, guys, I've always felt self-conscious about like having patrons at all. I mean, now I need money but now I have to depend on patrons because I have no other source of income. But so I always go out of my way to answer questions from like just random people. And sometimes I feel like I almost neglect my patrons a little bit, which I really shouldn't do. Because as I said, I do need them to pay my bills. So let's get some questions from the Discord. Anthony Teasdale says, Crossfire is great for functionality and ease of use. R9 can do what it does for the most part. It's just not as nice to use and requires more work. I agree. Anthony Teasdale, R9 is much, much cheaper than Crossfire, and it does get the job done. When Access Protocol rolls out to R9 and you get over-the-air firmware updates, I think some of the gap between Crossfire and R9 will close. But Von Zek wants to know how many quads I have. Anything that flies counts. Well, you can see on the wall there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's 10. I have maybe 4 or 5 micros. The Beast. I'd say I have around 20 quads right now, currently like flying. And I've got like 9 more back in. I have a shelf with quads that need to be fixed. And I got these plastic trays, and basically when a quad needs to be fixed, I put it in the plastic tray with all the spare parts and everything, and it's basically a project tray. And I have probably 5 of those that I haven't fixed, so. Let's see here. I keep hearing that R9 has better range than Crossfire, says Ian F. I don't buy that, Ian. I just don't buy that. There's many things that affect range. I would be shocked if, in general, R9 had better range than Crossfire. That's what I would say. There's no question that TBS's build quality is better than FreeSky's. FreeSky's is not bad, but I don't think there's any question that TBS just puts more effort into their build quality than FreeSky does. And firmware-wise, FreeSky, Crossfire has had once or twice they've had a firmware go out with a bug, but I think FreeSky has had more issues with bugs than Crossfire as well. But FreeSky is like a third of the price, so no, can't. Let's see. Terry Young, thanks for £5. No question. Back to the regular chat. Here we go. What do we got? How much different are the PIDs on a 6S compared to a 4S? Asks Terry Young. I've built a Marmot using the F722 flight controller. The default PIDs seem to be way off. Terry, I can't answer that question because you didn't tell me the motor KV. The PIDs on a 6S 1700 kV are going to be very, very similar to the PIDs on a 4S 2400 kV, 2500 kV, because the RPM is going to be about the same. On the other hand, if you've got 6S 1900 kV, you may need very different PIDs. What's the biggest wheelbase quad I have? Asks Cummins Super Duty. By the way, first of all, Cummins diesel engine, excellent engine. Great username. Biggest quad I have is the Beast. It's like 575 millimeters or something. Yeah. That is the Catalyst Machine Works Tasmanian frame. What is the Beast, says Cummins Super Duty. The Beast... You need to... Well, since you asked... The Beast is this dude. Oh, it's not actually in the video. It's not actually in the video. I need a picture of the video of the quad. Here it is. This is Neil Whiteley. Oh, this is his announcement video for it. Yeah, that's it. That's the Beast. Beast class. 575, I believe. Maybe 525. I can't remember the exact size. Game Boy wants to know, which do I prefer, idle up or air mode? I use air mode 100% of the time. Cummins Super Duty says, who makes a 650 to 900 frame? Well, like I say, the Catalyst Machine Works, the Beast is not 650. I think you want the that's the Cannonball is the one you want. If you're looking at Catalyst, you're going to want the Cannonball. Hold on, let's go to the shop. That is their X-Class frame, and it is like in the 900 millimeter size. Where? Frames. What about... No, I want more than 6-inch frames. Why don't I just search for it? Search for Cannonball. So yeah, this is their Cannonball frame. And it is got to be like 900 millimeters. That's the X-Class thing. Another one that you should look for is gosh darn it, who is the guy that when I started talking about Beast Class, people said, no, you should him. His name starts with an H. Damn, I'm blanking. Oh well. Somebody will tell me in the chat. UAV Tech is in the chat. Hello. UAV Tech, Mark Spatz, did you get a chance to look at my Beast Class black box logs? Any insights? Anything interesting there? Love to hear your thoughts. Bob Men says, have you tried the newest video receivers like the Fusion or the TrueDX? What do you think of those? Do you plan a new comparison playlist? I do have a review, Bob, of the TrueDX, comparing it against the Rapid Fire and the Owl RC. So definitely check that out. Definitely check that out. What about link quality via SmartPort? Hater Eternal Maver. I don't know that Fly or Free Sky can do link quality. I think that's a Crossfire thing. Thomas Neal. Oh my God, I saw your question, Thomas. Thomas, please don't be upset, dude. There's just 1,000 questions coming by. Many people ask their question 10, 15 times and just don't get lucky. However, I did notice yours. Please don't get frustrated that you had to ask it 3 times, though. That's just the nature of the live stream, my man. If you are upset that I haven't gotten to your question, just message me on Facebook. I will answer it one-on-one with you personally, and then you don't have to be frustrated. Woosah. I bought a Foxeer Box 2 based on a review. The camera I received, the Wi-Fi does not work. It's not available in networks. Why? Any chance of a setup video? Did you turn on Wi-Fi with the Box 2? You have to hold down the record button. So you turn it on, the LED is red, then you hold down the record button, the LED goes blinking yellow, then you should see the Wi-Fi network in your phone. If the LED is blinking yellow and you do not see the Wi-Fi network, then you may have a damaged camera. Or your phone, what if the camera was on 5 gigahertz, but your phone only supported 2.4? I don't know about that. There you go, though. There's the answer to your question. And yes, I did show that in the review video for the record. There is no setup video per se. It's just that was in the review, though. So that's what I would say, Thomas. That's what I would say. I'm glad I was able to get to your question. Is it okay, Dexter Johnson asks, to plug in an ISDT Q6 Pro charger to a power line DC to AC inverter with an input power 10 volts DC, output power of what webs from your cigarette plug to your car? My carport's 12 volt DC. You don't know. Don't do that. I mean, yes, you could do that, but that would be dumb because you're going from DC to AC back to DC. Just plug your ISDT Q6 directly into your car. Take the 12 volt from your battery and put it into the ISDT. The only thing is, if you use your car cigarette lighter adapter, it may have a 10 amp fuse. So if you try to pull more than 120 watts, you may pop the fuse. If you're going to use your car battery to power your charger, I suggest using alligator clamps underneath the hood. The other problem with you charging from your cigarette lighter is if a battery lights on fire, it's going to light the interior of your car on fire, which is not good. Whereas if you use your hood, ideally you would take it and put it like outside your hood, but I've known people who had a battery light on fire underneath their hood and they were quickly able to just like throw it on the ground. So it's less likely to light your car on fire. Bob Men wants to know, what about the TBS Fusion? What is the TBS Fusion? Is that the new TBS module that doesn't exist yet? Yeah, it doesn't exist yet. It's hard for me to review a product that doesn't exist yet. So until I invent my time machine, currently the TBS Fusion exists only as a prototype in the TBS headquarters and as a hype building reveal on a live stream. I can't test it or review it until it is for sale to the public. So there you go. No, I haven't reviewed it. I'm sorry. I sound snippy about that. I am snippy about it, but I shouldn't be. People are excited about new products, and that's cool. And people trust me, trust my opinion. So I really shouldn't be snippy about this. So I apologize. For being snippy. You know, it's the best thing in the world that people hear about a new product and their first thought is, what does Joshua Bardwell think about this? So I will stop being snippy about this because that is a real privilege. A real privilege. God forbid people go, all right, who cares what Joshua thinks? It's just a little annoying for people to say, have you reviewed this? And I'm like, I can't review it because I don't have a time machine to go forward to a time when it actually exists. I'm so sorry. I just want to help you, but I can't. Okay. Quad Speed FPV wants to know what I think of Betaflight 4.2. I don't know because Betaflight 4.2 doesn't exist yet. Betaflight 4.02 is the latest release. 4.02 is pretty good though. They fixed a lot of things that are wrong with 4.2. Homo Hereticus wants to know if the Beast would fly with a DSLR. DSLR, what does that weigh? What's a DSLR weigh? Probably it would. It has it hovers at about 20% throttle, so it's got some thrust to spare for sure. Ailey Renault is only getting 9 volt on the OSD using JBF-CV2. Ailey, I think you are looking at your camera OSD, not the Betaflight OSD. I think your camera has a built-in OSD and you are powering the camera from 9 volts, and so your camera is showing you its input power. I think you need to turn off the camera OSD. You can do that by plugging in the camera joystick and holding up on the joystick for 2 seconds, and that'll bring you to the camera's menu where you can turn off the camera OSD. Then go into the Betaflight OSD tab and turn on main battery voltage. And that's how you would do that, Ailey. That's just my guess. I can't think of a reason why you would be seeing 9 volts on the Betaflight OSD. David Bremer, thank you for $7 in the super chat. David wants to know, how do I feel the new FAA rules will alter our hobby? Do you put your registration number on yours like the FAA wants? David, it's hard to predict how the new FAA rules will alter our hobby. Right now, all of the methods for hobbyists to fly, right now, the only legal way for hobbyists to fly is in Class G airspace, which a lot of urban areas, there basically is no Class G airspace at all. It used to be that if you were a hobbyist, there was a procedure you could use to fly as long as you were below a certain ceiling, a reasonable ceiling. And that's gone. There is a method, a system that is in the works, LAANC, that will be available for hobbyists to request permission to fly. But currently, the system has not been rolled out yet. It's supposed to be rolled out, I don't know the date, soon. So right now, it's not possible for hobbyists to fly in a lot of areas where they were flying legally. as far as how that will alter our hobby, here's the thing. I think that the forces that will alter, it's like, remember we were talking earlier, how big is FPV? It's a few 100,000 people. We are a piece of driftwood floating on a much larger ocean. And there are tidal changes that are going to affect us. Things like Amazon wanting to do drone delivery, or Google Wing getting permission to do drone deliveries. The fact is that these forces are so much bigger than our hobby. I think it's likely that the things that will affect our hobby are so much bigger than us that we're probably not even going to see them coming. And I worry that we won't have any say, no matter how much we try to get our voices heard via the AMA or via the FPV Freedom Coalition. That when, like, think about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Jeff Bezos puts rockets in space. So when Jeff Bezos says, hey, I'd like to put some drones into the air, and then all the FPV enthusiasts go, no, we don't like that. I mean, let's just be real here. So how will the new FAA rules alter our hobby? I don't know. And I don't think you know either. And the only one who really knows is Jeff Bezos, or Google, or Elon Musk. What we need is a billionaire who flies FPV and can figure out a way to make $1 billion by protecting FPV. Until that happens, I don't really think we have a lot of say and a lot of pull. So the good news is a lot of us are just going to keep doing what we do. We're just going to keep flying. And as long as we don't do anything stupid, it's just going to keep happening. Quad Squad FPV, I'm approving your comment, even though it has an F word in it, because I kind of agree with you. Okay. Check out the Discord here. With the X-Fire versus R9M, I was referring to how differences between link budget changes the range between both. One is geared for lower latency at the expense of range versus more range at the expense of latency. Ian, you are right that when you design an RF system, you can design more for range and less for latency. If you design a system with more latency, you will get more range. You could trade those two. It's basically a slider. And there's other sliders too. Like you could go for a low latency, long range system, but you need a lot of bandwidth. So there's various trade-offs you make in the system. Crossfire is designed for low latency, but it is also designed for high range. I mean, when Crossfire drops to 50 megahertz, the latency goes way up, but you still get a ton of range. I feel like the biggest thing that affects range when we're talking about Crossfire versus R9 is other factors like the signal to noise ratio of the receiver itself, the antenna impedance matching, and so forth. And my gut feeling is that Crossfire does a better job of that than FreeSky, just because TBS takes a lot of pride in their hardware. That being said, for most of us, the effective range of R9 versus Crossfire is irrelevant, because for most of us, we're flying 5 gig video, we're flying at less than, let's say, 2 kilometers, and we're never going to hit the range of either of the systems. So unless you are like a long-range pilot who is trying to go 10, 20, 30 kilometers or more, I don't think it even matters. Rick says, I don't mind early release reviews if you do a review of the final product as well. I didn't like just getting the EV200 early review because they fixed issues and we didn't hear from you on that. Rick, the reason for that is that I never got a final version of the EV200D. So, I mean, I would like to update the review. I try and make a judgment call when I'm reviewing a product. Like Orca. I went and I did an interview with the Orca guys and I did a first look of the Orca goggles, because everybody was so curious about, like, what even is this? So it was worth it to me. I actually paid my own way out. Actually, my patrons, thank you, patrons. My patrons paid my way out to CES They offered to fly me out there, and I said, no, I'd like to make sure that I'm being as objective as possible. I don't always do that. Fat Shark flew me to China, and I said, okay, I'm going to take him up on that because I felt like I could be objective about Fat Shark. I already knew how I felt about Fat Shark. I didn't think the fact that they flew me out to China, it's not like they flew me out there and wined and dined. I mean, don't get me wrong, they treated me nicely, but they didn't anyway, they paid for my plane ticket basically. I felt like with the Fat Shark trip that I was able to be objective, and I knew the story that I wanted to tell by going out there, and that wasn't going to change because they paid for my plane ticket. But with the Orca thing, it was a complete blank slate, and I wanted to keep it that way. So I went out there and I reviewed the Orca. I didn't really review them, but I gave a first look of the Orca goggles, even though they were just a prototype. Now that Orca is getting closer to actually having a product to sell, especially that Orca has put this Kickstarter out there and they are taking your money. I don't want to review them until I see what they're going to be. So I try to make a judgment call about whether I'm going to review a pre-release product or not. And it has a lot to do with my mood. The release of Rapid Fire, I did a pre-release of Rapid Fire, and then when Rapid Fire came out, the very first version had some issues, and that I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do that again. So like with True D, did I review? The True D was also, I think, the True DX was also a pre-release, I think. Anyway, there you go. Yeah. Ian F. says, we need our own lobbyists in D.C., but we just don't have the money. It's true. People ask, should I be a member of the AMA? And I'm just going to go on a little bit of a soapbox here and say, yes, you should. I know a lot of people are not happy with how the AMA has treated FPV, and I am not happy either. The AMA, for a long time, was absolutely willing to throw FPV under the bus and basically say that FPV... They focused on their core, which was fixed-wing flyers flying at traditional flying fields, line of sight. The AMA has done a better job of this more recently. Here's why you should be an AMA member, though. Number one, if you go to an event like I/O, like a quad camp, any flight fest, any flight event is going to require you to have an AMA membership for insurance reasons. AMA membership comes with insurance, and if all the pilots are AMA members, then the event doesn't have to pay for insurance. And it is not only expensive to get insurance, but it's also difficult because the insurance agency has no idea what the hell you're talking about, so they don't know how to write you a policy. Whereas the AMA policy is just like, yeah, we get it. Okay, so number one, you should have AMA membership just for the insurance. And by the way, that insurance covers you not just at an AMA field or not just at an event like I/O, but it can cover you other times. It depends. You have to be flying according to their safety regulations, but that alone, it might be worth the $60 or $70 a year. But the other thing is that love them or hate them, they are the closest thing we have to a voice in Washington. There's the FPV Freedom Coalition, which is started fairly recently and is doing a lot for its size. But at the end of the day, they are the loudest voice that we have. And although they don't always speak for us in exactly the way that we would like, what's the alternative? Nothing. So if you never go to flight events like I/O or Flight Test or whatever, Flight Fest, and if you only ever fly guerrilla style, you just go somewhere and fly, and you don't care about the laws, then don't join the AMA. But if you care at all about influencing laws, and if you ever go to a flight event like this, you may as well get an AMA membership. Okay. How's Knoxville treating me? Reaper X asks. Pretty good, pretty good. I like Knoxville a lot. Yeah. $50 times 100,000 members is a $5 million budget for a year. Not a bad start. It's not a bad start, Fly the Blue Sky. I think you're vastly overestimating what percent of FPV pilots would be willing to pay $50 a year to something like the FPV Freedom Coalition. Fly the Blue Sky says we need to form a lobbying association like the AO Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association does. That would be the FPV Freedom Coalition. So the FPV Freedom Coalition, you can Google it if you haven't heard of it. I'll put the website up. FPV Freedom Coalition it was started by, among others, Chad Capper. Some people on the Rotor Riot Facebook group were like, why is Rotor Riot not doing more lobbying? Well, they are. They're just not doing it under the Rotor Riot name for reasons. Think about it. Do you want Rotor Riot to be the face of lobbying? No. Rotor Riot is a different entity. The FPV Freedom Coalition is the exact same people who are in Rotor Riot and many others, just working under a different face and a different name. So, and basically, the goal of the FPV Freedom Coalition is essentially to do what the AMA does, but for FPV pilots specifically. And I agree. If the FPV user base is 250,000 people and we all gave $50 a year and we had $5 million or $15 million, that'd be great. But realistically, if you could get 3% of the user base to donate $50 a year, you'd be doing pretty freaking good. The take rate is so freaking low. Okay. Fredwick says the trash can died on me. When I plug in the battery, I get nothing. When I plug in the USB, I get power. That means the 5-volt regulator is dead, and it probably means you're going to be replacing the flight controller because most people don't have the skills to replace the 5-volt regulator by itself. What do I think of the Blade Scimitar? Matthew Smiley wants to know what I think of the Blade Scimitar. The Blade Scimitar is a ready-to-fly bind and fly from Horizon Hobby. It is actually pretty freaking good. I actually got to fly one last year at Quad Camp. It is not bad, and frankly, for a price of $150, this is the Scimitar 110. Sorry, hang on. They have a 5-inch as well. I didn't know that. Here's the 170. How much is that one? $219. It's not for. Don't fly it with prop guards on it. Horizon Hobby. Why do you have to put prop guards on everything? Stop it. Stop it. Oh, this is a 4-inch. I flew the 5-inch. Where's the 5-inch? Maybe it was a 4-inch. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Don't put prop guards on it, okay? You don't need those. But it's not freaking bad. If you have a Spectrum radio and you want a racing quad style bind and fly, it's pretty good. We actually flew it in the Rotor Riot. The 2 quads, 1 controller. Let's see if I can find it. I'm not going to find it. Oh, well. We flew 2 of them at a time and crashed the crap out of it. It was pretty fun. It's not bad, though. If you're looking for a racing quad style bind and fly from Spectrum, that's the one to get. The other thing I like about it is that you can buy it in hobby shops, and I always like to see FPV being represented in hobby shops. FPV Arborist, great question. When charging from a car, what should I set the cutoff to so I can still start the car? You're not going to like the answer, though, FPV Arborist. The low voltage for a car battery is like 11.7 volts or something. It's way lower. It's way higher than you think. Car batteries are not designed to be discharged low. They take damage at a really high voltage. Like fully charged is like 12.6 and like discharge is like 11.7 or something. Let's look it up. Let's look it up instead of me talking out my ass. No, I don't want videos. I want the voltage. Let's look it up. If the battery stays above 11.8 volts, it will generally still start the vehicle. There you go. So here's the thing. If you discharge your car battery, if you're charging your batteries, your quad batteries from your car battery, it's going to hit 11.8 volts way faster than you think. You're not going to get many charges off it. And I've known people who've killed their car battery. Even if the car still starts, if you're discharging it down to 11.5, 11.2, you're actually doing some damage to it. It is not designed to be discharged that low. Car batteries are just, that's the difference between a car battery and a deep cycle marine battery. So if you are going to charge your batteries in the field off your car, idle the engine is my recommendation. Just idle the engine and then you're fine because the alternator will provide the power. You're burning some gas. You're idling your car. You're killing the environment. But what are you gonna do? Heraklion FPV, thank you for 20 euros. Thank you. I'm always astounded by the larger donation. People give me $2 and I'm like, oh, all right, cool, thanks. Yeah, I get that. People give me $20 and I'm like, what? Okay, but let's answer the question. Is it better to soft mount the gyro like the Kakute F7 or the O-ring solution or none? Heraklion, I definitely think that every flight controller needs some soft mounting. The problem with the Kakute F7 soft mounts the gyro, and that's cool because it means you can hard mount the flight controller. I originally suggested, I didn't invent the idea of soft mounting the gyro, but I actually suggested it to Holybro because they did it on their, what was the old Holybro ready to fly that was like a Vortex? It was a single board. And the problem is when you have the gyro mounted to like a single main board, you can't soft mount the whole main board. And I said, why don't you guys soft mount the gyro? Like you did. It was their own idea, and I recycled it back to them. They soft mount the gyro on the Kakute. It's a little different when it's a flight controller, like a dedicated flight controller, as opposed to like an integrated main board, because you can soft mount the flight controller. So then the question is, which is better, soft mounting the flight controller with like gummies or soft mounting the gyro? The gummy solution is pretty freaking good. I do think that the isolation you get from soft mounting the gyro is a little better, but the problem is that anything touching it, like a battery strap rubbing up against it or wires touching it, can create issues. So you do have to be careful that nothing passes over it if you have a soft mounted gyro. I think the best all-round solution is gummies. I do think the Kakute solution is a little better, especially now that we're running 8K. If the thing about the Kakute is it has the ability to run 32K, but now Betaflight doesn't support that anymore. So I think the best all-round solution is the gummies. But especially if you're running 8K. Yeah, that's what I would say. I would not rely on hard mounting, Heraklion. The soft filters, you always want to soft mount the flight controller. It always helps. Don't just rely. If you had to do it, you could use filters, but the gummies especially are good enough. I would use the gummies. I'm back on the Discord. How about the Discord? Who lost the live stream? People lost the live stream? Did anybody lose the live stream? Multiple people are saying they lost the live stream. I still show that I'm streaming. Google still shows my status is good. I think you guys need to just reload the page. Hang on, let me check my preview window here. Oh, no. My preview window is glitching out. Hold on, guys. Have I lost the live stream? Nope. Oh, wow. Oh. It's dead. What the hell? Wow, YouTube just died. YouTube is dead. Yeah, wow. Okay. Well, that's the end of the stream. I guess that's the end of the stream. All right, guys. Well, the only people who are going to hear this are the people listening to the podcast who will get this recording, my local recording. Literally, all of YouTube has gone down, and like literally everyone, and just people are saying the whole YouTube website is dead. So I guess that is going to be the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much, and that's going to do it. We're going to